Okay, so I've had this thought mulling around because I keep seeing videos like this and I'm trying to find a way to express it, and I'm going to give it a shot here. Um, the thing that keeps coming up is people who are very young and idealistic and the hyper progressive audience, if you would, the people who they're in college and there are all these different things and they want to challenge all the stuff that goes on, and this falls back to the thing that I have where teachers uh, don't stay on teaching and not pushing their ideals. Um, Whenever there's a conversation, they will sit there and say, "We're more educated. I'm more educated. Where's your degree? Where did you get your this? Where did you get your that? Where did you, oh, how did you do this and that and the other?" And they'll sit there and say, "Well, I have a degree in this and I have a degree in that, so your opinion doesn't matter," and this and that and the other. And they just don't seem to get it. And so I keep quandering on this. Why do they not get it? And I think I got part of it. There's an old saying, it's an old idiom, and it says, "Those who can do, those who can't teach." And again, this is not a dig on teachers because this is not like a strict rule, but it is kind of like sitting there and saying, like saying women tend to go into nursing because they're very good caregivers, or men tend to do whatever because they're very good, muscular, manly, whatever. I don't care. You have a biological push towards it, and this may be biological, I don't know, but the simple fact of the matter is the idiom is based on the idea and the stereotype, if you want, that those who can do, those who can deal with reality, those who can do what can be done, those who want to look at what can be done, who can realize what can be done, who can make things happen because they can work within the real world, do. And those who cannot deal with the real world, those who cannot teach. The simple fact of the matter is that when you're in school and when you're a teacher, you're dealing with, at best, things that have happened in the past, but everything else is maybe, might. You're dealing with things that might be, things that could be. When people look at socialism, it could work. Historically, it hasn't, which is one of the things that a lot of people in education forget, is they stop looking at the past and saying, okay, there is a historical record that says whether or not these things happen. There is a historical record and a evolution that happened to create us the way we are today. Every part of us, not just our physical being, but our culture and the way we live and why we do things may have kind of lost in the details, but there's reasons why we do things. And sure, things need to be challenged, but things like socialism, when somebody sits there and says, "Oh, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if we could just, everybody did their part and then nobody had a want? You could just, if you needed an apple, you just took an apple. And if you needed this, you just had it. You could have it. It's yours. It's fine. It's not, you just, if you need it, do it." And everybody just does their part. There's no greed. There's no selfishness. There's no ambition. There's none of that. What could be? And it seems so idealistic. But when you put it into the real world, it crashes to the ground. Because it can't. It cannot exist. Okay? It can't, especially right now, and not for at least several hundred years of man's evolution. It's just not a viable thing. It can't. So those who can't teach, those who can deal with what is working in reality, do. If you've ever worked in any kind of career field where you create new things, you fully know this. Here's a perfect example. Recently, a security company that deals with managing antivirus and anti-this and security, this and that and the other, and they handle the security for hundreds of businesses around the world, did an update on their system and everybody was locked down. All of a sudden it was like, oh, this was bad. And all their stuff failed. Everybody was locked out of computers. Nobody could do anything. Everything failed. Why? Because the process to put that out was this. Something happened and they didn't do it right. And what happened was is somebody in a lab said, what could be? They stand there and they go, what could be? What could be? What could be? Well, we could do this and this and this and this. Okay, and so they came up with an idea and they put it together on what to do and how to implement it. And they came out and they said, okay, I just invented this new thing. And they said, okay, take it over to the test lab where we have a sample pretend environment that is as close as we can get to the real world and go try it out there. And so they take it to the test lab and they try it out and they go, ooh, I didn't see that. Somebody has this program. I didn't. What? Oh man. Okay, let's take it back. Let's go fix that. And then they take it back again. Okay. Oh, it blew up the Windows 95 computers. Nobody can do anything in the back in the past. Okay, well, if we're going to do this, we're not doing any of our customers. Got to sort all these issues out. Okay. They find all the bugs, or at least the bugs they're willing to fix. And they say, okay, well, is it a catastrophic one? No. Okay, well, it's a blinky thing that annoys people. Okay, just forget it. Let it go. Whatever. But they have to test it in a lab. And then when they take it into the real world, we have so many movies about, oh, they had this thing and they put it in the real world and it went askew. Of course it does. Because you cannot take into consideration every little particle in the universe and say, this one isn't going to screw me. And one tiny little electron, one proton, one particle, one quark will screw you up eventually. It will. Somewhere out there is something that will do that, but you can mitigate it as best you can. So you put out your little test again and you go to the real world and you say, okay, we're going to implement this on, say, 100 computers. Okay. Did it go? Yeah. Okay. Let's do this whole business right here. They'll be the first. They're going to be a test bed. They're going to be first. Watch them heavy. Okay. It's good. Nothing bad. It's been a couple days. Nothing crashing. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this. Okay. It's going exactly the way we did for this one. It went exactly this way here. The bugs that happened are the ones we knew about and the ones we were willing to accept. Let's go ahead and roll it out. Somehow something got missed. And they rolled it out to everybody and bang, it exploded. Because somebody started with the could be and they sat there and tried to work a process to bring it into reality and it failed. This is the way of the world and how it works, okay? And when you are in school, you have none of this, okay? When you say, I have a degree, what we're talking about here is knowledge. And there's two types. There's two basic types. I'm sure you could break them into other different categories, but there's two that just about everybody understands when you go to apply for a job. Okay? There is class knowledge. There is education. Okay? There's educated knowledge. Where you went to school, where you learned it, where you read a book, and you hoped to understand it, and you hoped that you would memorize it and remember it when it came time to fill out all the little bubbles 6 months later. And then maybe you remember even longer than that. Mathematicians. All the super math guys, explain to me. Tell me right now, can you actually show a proof why Pythagorean's theorem works in the real world? Oh man, I totally forgot. Wait, how did he figure that out? It was, you got to think out of the box. No, actually, you have to think in the box, but out of the triangle. There is a proof that shows how that works, but a lot of mathematicians who absolutely fully understand this, most people don't even know that part. They don't get into that level of detail, but even the mathematicians who get into that level of detail, many of them go, oh, God, I forgot how that works. Okay? That's this educated knowledge. Okay? That's the educated knowledge that you have. You go to school and you say, I get all this information, you get this knowledge, but then you go into the real world and you try to get a job, and what happens? Nobody wants to hire you. Why? Because you have no experience. You can't testify. You've got hearsay right here. All of this is hearsay, not admissible in court. This is experience. This is firsthand, I was there experience. If you're lucky, you'll get a shot. You'll get a shot. Okay? And without this, everything you have is la la land information. It's what could be, what might be. It has nothing to do with reality. It has nothing to do with what's gone on. Look at the studies, look at the tests. These are things that help us understand what happens in reality, but none of them are 100%. Oh, you have a study that shows this, and then there's another study that says you don't. There's one doctor saying smoking cures cancer, and another one going, what the hell's wrong with you? There's going to be disagreement on those things, okay? And time will tell eventually on those, especially when it's an early on thing. I worked in tech, and we used to call it the bleeding edge of technology. Not the cutting edge, we lived the bleeding edge because we were way out front on what could be and trying to bring it to reality. When you're dealing with that area, you're dealing with a lot of death, okay? When you deal with very top level things, you're dealing with, yeah, that's bleeding edge. You're talking, I went and did this, and guess what? People died because I tried stuff, okay? Yeah, that's the military background coming out at you. You have all this education. You say, I have a degree, I have this, I have that. It's not a brag. It really isn't the brag that you think it is. You go look for a job, it's not going to get you jack. It's not. This would get you a job before this would. Okay? It will. Here's the thing. When you're trying to pick one of these things, experience or education, because you could just, out of high school, go and try to do whatever job you want to do. Okay? Yes, some jobs require an education type thing. For some require you to do the education while you're getting the experience. Okay, which is a lot of the trade fields are based on getting that education as you do experience. It's doing them together. That's where they've combined the two, where you learn trade stuff, you get some, and then you got to go practice it, and you got to learn more. You might even start off with a basic level type things of how to do plumbing and what the code says on electrical, things like that. But you learn it, you learn those books while you're doing it, because this is more important. You can get everything that you could ever get in an education, going to college, through experience. It was originally found through experience. Trust me. Whoever wrote the book said, damn, if you put a nail through your foot, that goes out. That was done through experience somehow. Trust me. So the experience route is a gamble. You could end up with less knowledge than somebody else because you could be limited to the area. Okay, I only dealt with, if you were doing trades, I've only dealt with this city and that city in this state. And that's how I know my stuff. Well, maybe that state never had polybutylene piping, or it never had this and that and the other. Your experience level might only gain you this knowledge because you never have to deal with the other stuff. Or maybe for some other reason, you're able to get everything that you could possibly get here. Now, everything in knowledge, in practical, experience, first-hand testimony, that's worth more. Because this, you have both. But with experience, education has a limit. it has a very finite limit of how much knowledge you can get. Experience doesn't. It's infinite. And you can have way more than this could ever give you. And depending on the field, it can be very, very easy for you to get way more than what's available here. And depending on which field, you could end up with way more than you could ever get anywhere. When you're doing the education field, you're trying to give yourself a leg up, okay? A leg up on guys who are starting with no experience and no knowledge. You're trying to say, okay, I've got the education part, I just need the experience part. I've never done it myself. I can't testify that if you put this here and here, it's gonna work, because I've never actually done it. I don't care how many times you've done it in the lab. Did you do it in the real world? No, I've got very basic, I've done little things around the house stuff. No, I can't testify to this and that and the other. No, you can't. Everything you have is hearsay, not admissible in court, and doesn't mean jack to most people, okay? When you sit there in these areas thinking about all these wonderful fictional books that you spend most of your time reading on all kinds of stuff, and yes, the nonfiction too, but you live in this world of hopes and dreams. You're hoping and dreaming for this wonderful job when you finish school, and hoping and dreaming for this wonderful life, and hoping and dreaming for this and that. Whereas these guys go, screw that, I gotta get out there and do it now. Because the only way I'm going to get that hope and dream is by working my ass off. I'm not going to be able to do it by sitting behind a desk. So anybody out there trying to sit there and say, yeah, oh, I'm educated. I'm more educated than you. How much experience do you have? How much real world experience do you have with socialism? It's one of those things where they say, we're going to ship you to Venezuela. We'll ship you here. Take and send you to Cuba. Go get the experience, and I will show you that it's just a repeat of everything we've seen in the past. That's what they're doing. So to break it down, yeah, those that can do. Those who can't teach. Those who don't want to can, they teach. Sometimes you just do it. There are some benefits to doing actual teaching too. Okay, I actually did a year teaching, and I'll tell you what, regurgitating information to students for a year, oh my God, you memorize that stuff hardcore. So no, you would never forget how Pythagorean theorem is done, because you sat there and repeated it about 1,000,000 times to different students. And you had to work out 1,000 different analogies to explain it, and you had to work out 1,000 other things. And so yeah, there are huge advantages to that. But if you're one of those people who just can't, that's where you spend most of your time. And when you are a kid, you can't. You're not old enough. You're not wise enough. You're not even knowledgeable enough to even try, okay? So no, you can't. You need to be in school, okay? So if you don't even have the knowledge, then you're in the school. If you do have the knowledge, you're teaching. That's it. Those who can do, those who can't teach. That's my lesson. Enjoy.